Today's topic is kind of sensitive to me. It has to do with when I was committed to a mental hospital. I was in a really bad place in my life, and I didn't want to be here anymore. And the reason why I'm doing this video is basically to help anyone that is struggling with depression, anxiety, any type of mental illness, that they feel that they're alone and they have no one to turn to. I just want everybody to know that you're not alone. I had a very supportive mom that helped me, and I had a couple of friends, but usually when you go through things like this, you think you're alone. You're in a room full of people and you feel alone. And I remember it was late when I called my mom, and I just told her I didn't feel like I wanted to be here anymore. And I told her, if you don't get here as soon as possible, that's it. I'm going to end it. This was years ago when this happened. My mom, God bless her, she came and she took me to the hospital. And when I got to the hospital, I was in the intake and all of that, where they process you and do all of those things. So I was there, and then from there, they transferred me to another hospital. So they put me in an ambulance, took me to another hospital, and it was just so surreal. Like I just felt completely out of touch with who I was, and I had been going through a lot of alcohol and drug abuse and different things like that at the time, which just exacerbated the problem. It just made everything worse. So by the time I got to the hospital, and I was working very long hours and not getting much sleep, and the thing was, I was put on a medication that didn't agree with me, and I told the doctor I knew that I couldn't take serotonin reuptake inhibitors, and I knew how my body reacted to them, because the side effects of some of those drugs are insomnia, and what is the other one? The other one is anorexia, where if I looked at food, I would just feel really bad. Like I couldn't eat the food, I couldn't eat anything. It was horrible, you know. And so that, along with no sleep, it just made my problem worse. And on top of the alcohol and whatever else I was doing at the time. So by the time I made it to the hospital, it was dinner time. And it was crazy. So I get there and they start doing their assessments and everything like that. And they go through I had a backpack. I had like 2 cell phones with 2 different numbers, which you already know. I was just talking to different people, trying to be in different crazy situations and relationships that I had no business being in. That also added to my stress, because it was things that were completely out of my control, and I was totally off the chain at that time. I made a lot of money at that time, but it didn't matter, because when that chemical imbalance happens, and a lot of people don't want to address a chemical imbalance, they think, oh, you know, they're weak or whatever. And I feel like when you know that there's something wrong with you and you address the problem, I think that you're a stronger person for it. I don't care what anybody says, because in the black community, you already know it's a stigma behind African Americans getting help and different things like that. They won't do it. They rather self-medicate and do drugs and whatever, and you just think that the person is that's just what they do, they just partying. That's not the case. A lot of times they need to really do an assessment and figure out, okay, how am I going to change? It's some things that's off balance that I'm trying to get in balance with these other chemicals, and it's never going to get in balance with those other chemicals. So anyway, I was prescribed the medication. I will not name the medication, but I was prescribed a medication that didn't agree with me, and it kind of tipped me over the edge. And on top of it all, I had 2 deaths happen right back to back. So I had a cousin that gotten murdered by her husband, and her husband then killed himself. And then my aunt had passed, and she was just a dear person to me. With those two things, it just added on to it. I just didn't have the coping mechanism to deal with it. So the funny thing is, and it's not funny, but when I got in the hospital, I'm sitting there, and it was dinner time and everything like that, and and before I got to the lunchroom and everything, they were asking, well, what type of work do you do? Because they see 2 cell phones and a pager, they think, oh, it's drugs, whatever. I'm like, I am a hairstylist and a hairstylist assistant. So at the time, they probably didn't believe me, but that's what I did. It was nothing illegal or anything like that. So I get there, and they're having my favorite food, which is spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm like, okay. And I sit down, and they give me the food, and I look down at the food, and it's full of onions. My stomach can't tolerate raw onions. And I just started crying. And that was my theme. I cried all the time from this depression. It was like the sun could be shining outside, and it was just dark to me. It just was dark all the time. It just, and it's so weird how you can be in a room full of people, like I said, and still feel lonely, and you just, and then I had racing thoughts. I couldn't hold one thought for a second before another one would come in. It was just the wildest thing. So I'm sitting there, and I just start bawling. So I'm sitting there crying and crying and crying and crying, and then everyone started pushing their Jell-O. They had Jell-O for dessert. They started giving me their Jell-O. And then I'm thinking to myself, I think about it often, I'm thinking, wow, these people are sick. They're sick, and they're going through things, but they still found it in their heart to give me their Jell-O. I thank them for that. Just for that, I felt grateful for that. So, that was great. So, anyway, after I was in the hospital for a while, I got to talk to a doctor. It's a black psychiatrist named Dr. Cooper, and he was great, because they were just trying to go through and figure out what was causing the depression, what was going on. And so he made an assessment with the medication. And once he made that assessment with the medication, he was like, okay. And he starts asking me, like, what was going on in my life. And I'm telling him everything. And at the time, I had a beautiful daughter and everything like that. She was about 3. But my relationship was not where it needed to be. And I also had another secret relationship that was going on that was crumbling. So everything I put on myself. I take full responsibility for the mess. A lot of people don't do that. They think it's somebody else's fault. But it was all my fault. And I put all of that on myself. So needless to say, with that crumbling, the doctor said something that it turned a light bulb on in my head. Like he said, oh, that person that you were dealing with is full of shit. And it just kind of struck me like, wait a minute. I didn't know the doctor was supposed to speak like that and talk like that, but he was coming from his heart, and he knew, like, you need to get out of this situation, whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? And then he was like, I'm going to change your meds. I'm going to put you on something that is going to, you know what I mean? Because you can't be on this other medicine. You have to be on this one. This is going to increase your appetite and everything like that. And I was like really tiny at the time, really small. So he changes the medication. So in the meantime, he tells me, they have to immediately take you off of this other one because the two will clash against each other. You can have a seizure. So the nurse comes in the room with both meds, and I'm telling her what the psychiatrist said, like, he told me I can't take both of these. She wasn't hearing it, but thank God I had no seizure or whatever, because that would have been awful. So anyway, then, as I'm in there, I ended up meeting a couple of people, and it was just crazy because I'm listening to their stories. One girl was in there, she had a relationship with like 3 people at the same time, 3 guys, and they all showed up on her property. And you you're cheating on us, and she had a nervous breakdown and ended up in there. And I thought it wasn't hilarious, but it was hilarious. I'm just like, this is crazy. And then another guy, he had been sober for 10 years, and he had to handle some personal stuff with his mom here. He had to handle something, and he had to fly back from, I think he was living in, I want to say Arizona or somewhere like that. And he hadn't been here in all that time. And he got here, and evidently it triggered something. It triggered something in him, and he ended up falling off the wagon after 10 years, passing out, falling flat on his face, and knocking his front tooth out. And I'm looking at this like, wow, and you never know just how much your situation, you think your situation is really bad, and then you see other people's situations. There was one girl, one lady in there, she had been molested, and her family didn't believe her. And it's so crazy how they want to not believe these women or these men, but especially women, they just don't, and it's crazy. And it's like, and then she just kept ruminating over that and ruminating, and just never got any healing from it, because it just kept on resurfacing every time she would interact with them. I don't know what they said or did that activated it, but it just sent her into a tailspin, and she ended up in there. So as I was in there and the medicine started taking effect, the doctor came to me and he says, I have to move you to minimum security, because if you stay over here in maximum security, you will be crazy. Because he knew I wasn't crazy, you know what I'm saying? But guess what? The people that was in max, they might have not been great. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Because it's a chemical imbalance or whatever. But he said, I have to move you. And they wanted to send me home after a few days. I didn't want to come home. I'm like, just let me stay in here. I can rest. I don't have to deal. Just let me stay in here for a little while. And they let me stay. Because I had a lot of anger, in which that's what they say depression is anger turned inward. I had a lot of it. And it was a lot of things that I didn't like about myself that I needed to heal. And a lot of issues that I had that I internalized, and it took a while, a long time, for me to really come to terms and accept different things and find a different way of healing myself. And so I was always on that quest to heal myself. I was always on that quest to be enlightened. And the thing is, I feel deeply, so I can feel different energies and stuff, and people call it being an empath. And I know that I'm an empath, but, I feel, and a lot of times, I know that was some of the reason why I drugged and drank, because it's the numbness that shut it down, so you won't feel it, so it won't be there. So a lot of times I would do those different things, and so it was just a learning process, and the thing was, even though they put me on the right meds and everything like that, I still didn't stop drinking. I carried that on, and so it carried on for several years. I kept on, and of course you kill your medicine when you're drinking on top of it. So that was a lot of things where, I had to learn how to heal myself from the inside out with no outside validation. And I will be doing more videos on validation and different things like that, and self-validation, and more introspective, looking inward. You'll figure out how to heal yourself. But there was a lot of things going on with me that it was just amazing. But the ride to get here, I wouldn't change it for anything. So that's why I'm just a different person now. I don't feel not sad like that. For the most part, happy. But I just want to come on here and tell you guys that you're not alone in anything as far as this journey is. You know, we're all connected. And I'm here for anybody that you have any questions or any concerns or anything like that. I'm here for you. Just know that, because I know that it can be hard sometimes when you're alone and you have no one to turn to, and no one is concerned with trying to help. And that's why I know that it's just a better way, because I thought there was no way, you know, really, like, and then when I figured out, okay, well, I can actually be happy sober, and I didn't think that I could be happy sober. Turned around, it's just like I can choose the happiness. Didn't know that I can choose a different way and actually embrace it and actually enjoy it. So that was just what I learned throughout my journey and in my life. So just want to come on here and share that story with you. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and hit the notification bell for more updates on videos. I'll see you next time. Thank you.